In the third year of our relationship, I chose to break up and leave the country, thinking we'd never see each other again. What I didn't know was that the girl who always seemed so indifferent had waited for me the entire night. I had been with Lily Harper for 3 years when the exhaustion suddenly hit me. That day, I bought a one-way plane ticket to study abroad, blocked all her contact info, and asked my roommate to return the medal to her. I broke up with her without a word. My family had gone bankrupt, and I couldn't afford to support her anymore. Thinking we'd never meet again, I didn't leave any space for regrets. It wasn't until years later that I found out Lily had stood beneath the Harper Group building all night, clutching that medal. When I arrived at the lab that afternoon, I saw Lily Harper reaching through the small window in the iron door to grab a reagent. But just as she reached, a tall guy got there first. Without hesitation, he took over what she was doing and completed the next steps of the experiment for her. He leaned in close, so close that when he reached around her to get the reagent, it almost looked like he was half hugging her shoulders. The space between them couldn't have been more than a fist. Lily's cheeks flushed slightly, and though she looked shy, she didn't push him away. She calmly continued the experiment. The guy kept smiling at her, eyes full of warmth. A sour bitterness rose in my chest. His name was Ethan Brooks. This wasn't the first time I'd seen him hanging around Lily. They said he was the professor's son, and the professor himself had arranged for Ethan to guide Lily in her lab work. I felt a little uneasy watching them. Luckily, Lily finished quickly. She distanced herself from Ethan with a cold efficiency, slipping back into her usual aloofness. That gave me a bit of comfort. Even if she ignored my texts and refused to get close to me anymore, at least she still kept her boundaries around other men. That was the only reassurance I had left. After the experiment, Lily removed her lab gear and opened the door. When she saw me standing there, her brows furrowed slightly. "Why are you here?" she asked, her tone even colder than usual. But she didn't sound annoyed, just distant. Ethan stepped out behind her, still smiling, until his eyes landed on me. His expression shifted immediately. He stared at my clothes, waved a hand in front of his face, and said with clear disdain, "What's that smell?" I looked down and realized it was the grease stain from lunch in the cafeteria. The heat had made the smell worse. Lily stood by the door, sunlight from the hallway window casting a soft glow on her perfect side profile. She looked beautiful, but so far away. I felt a heavy ache inside. I wanted to say we'd agreed to have dinner today, to ask why she had been ignoring my messages, to pull her into a hug and tell her I missed her so much. But the words stuck in my throat. "There's something wrong with my thesis," I said instead. "I wanted to ask if you had some data." A cheap excuse, but it was the only thing I could manage. "Let's go," Lily said, taking off the rest of her lab suit. "Let's head to the library together another day," she added, turning to Ethan. He glanced at me with visible irritation but nodded. That moment gave me a glimmer of hope. She still thought about me. I couldn't help but feel a small sense of triumph. Lost in thought, I nearly missed her walking away, and I quickly rushed to catch up. My mind drifted again, back to the first time I met her. It was in the academic affairs office. She was arguing calmly with a counselor. "Sir, why wasn't I selected for the financial aid? The school owes me an explanation." Her voice was cold, her stance firm. "Mia Thompson isn't struggling financially," she added, just before the counselor cut her off. "How do you know that? Focus on your GPA instead of pointing fingers." Lily bit her lip and turned to leave. That was when I saw her face clearly for the first time. Delicate features, porcelain skin, and jet black hair that framed her face like a frozen bloom. It was then I realized she was the campus belle of Harrington University. Rumor had it she was even more beautiful than most celebrities. That day, I chased after her and asked, "Are you struggling with money?" She looked back at me but didn't answer. "I can help," I blurted out, immediately regretting how it sounded. It felt like I was trying to buy her affection. I expected her to scoff and walk away. But she didn't. She just stared at me and said flatly, "What are the conditions?" Be my girlfriend, I said without thinking. I was sure she'd reject me. But after 5 seconds of silence, she nodded. Okay. I was stunned. You're serious? I asked. Yeah, she replied softly. I froze for a moment before it sank in. We were dating. The cold, untouchable belle of Harrington University had agreed to be with me. The news spread quickly. Everyone wanted to know who had managed to melt her icy heart. One time, I asked her to meet in an empty classroom, pretending I needed help with my thesis. But Lily seemed to sense something was off. She didn't say anything at first. Calmly, she pulled out her phone, replied to a message from Ethan Brooks with a simple, "I know," and got ready to leave. She never raised her voice. I caught a glimpse of her screen and realized she'd seen every single message I'd sent. She just never replied. That's the kind of silence adults use as an answer. Without a word, she walked out. I followed her. We passed through the woods behind campus on our way to the cafeteria. I finally found the nerve to take her hand. "Can I kiss you?" Lily stopped. Her ears flushed, but her face stayed composed. I thought she'd reject me. Instead, she rose on her toes, gently cupped my face, and kissed me. I wrapped my arms around her waist, not wanting to let go. She deepened the kiss in response, as if swept up in the same emotion that had overwhelmed me. The air was filled with the scent of her shower gel, sweet and clean, almost intoxicating. But right after the kiss, Lily Harper pulled away and returned to her usual indifference. She even pushed me away impatiently, as if what had just happened was nothing more than some obligation she had to fulfill. At that moment, it hit me, maybe from the very beginning, she agreed to be with me not because she liked me, but because I could offer her financial support. I walked back to the dorm alone. My roommates noticed the lipstick marks on my face and started teasing me. I forced a smile and played along, but all I could think about was the coldness in Lily's eyes. Why did she seem so unwilling to get close to me? Just then, something fell from the shelf, a soft clink on the ground beside my bed. It was the gold medal. I bent down and picked it up. Engraved on it were the words, "First prize in physics competition." My mind drifted back 2 years. Lily and I had only just started dating when she took me to visit her home for the first time. It was in a remote countryside. Her house was old and falling apart. Her mother, gray-haired and thin, was feeding chickens in the yard. Her father, who clearly had a gambling problem, sat nearby smoking with a blank expression. And her younger sister, still in high school, was reading aloud from a worn textbook. In that moment, I felt like the male lead in a redemption story saving the broken heroine from her tragic life. But then I laughed at myself. What kind of hero uses money to save someone? Still, I remembered how she'd exhausted her scholarship funds trying to pay off her father's debts. That night, she curled up in my arms and cried until she couldn't anymore. "It's okay, Lily. I won't let you suffer," I told her, stroking her hair. I meant it. I wanted to protect her from everything. And in return, she gave me that gold medal. It had no real value, but it meant everything to me. I thought it was a sign that she was letting me into her heart. That night, the campus forum exploded. My roommate shook me awake and shoved his phone in my face. "Look at this. The Ethan CP fans are everywhere. They're tearing you apart." I rubbed my eyes and saw the screen. The top post showed Ethan Brooks at a dinner party, standing beside Lily Harper and smiling while raising his wine glass to block a toast for her. There were dozens of other photos, Lily and Ethan studying together, sitting side by side in class, and one where he was helping her put on a lab mask. The comments were overflowing with praise. "Wow, Idol-chan is so caring and handsome. If I were Lily, I'd pick him in a heartbeat. Didn't James Carter use money to win her over? No way she'd go for a loser like him otherwise. If I had money, Lily would have picked me instead of James." My roommate, clearly pissed, said, "These people don't know what they're talking about. Don't take it personally. I smiled like I didn't care, but the truth was, my chest felt like it had caved in. People had always assumed Lily was only with me for my money. They called me a simp, a doormat, a desperate guy begging for scraps of affection. I used to ignore it. But seeing those photos, seeing how good they looked together, hit differently. They really did make a good match. Lily was exceptional, and maybe only someone like Ethan Brooks truly deserved her. Lying there in the dark, I noticed something else. On her social media feed, Lily had browsed those posts. She had seen them all. But she hadn't said a word to defend me. She let those comments tear me apart, silently. That silence crushed me. Over the years, I'd given her all of me time, my money, my heart. But had she ever, even once, felt sorry for me? I stared at the ceiling, feeling completely drained. Maybe we should break up. That thought echoed in my head. Maybe I should let her be with Ethan freely, without guilt. I opened the draft box and started typing a breakup post. But my fingers hesitated. I couldn't bring myself to hit send. We'd been together for 2 years. I couldn't pretend I didn't have feelings for her. Even though she was distant most of the time, there were moments I clung to. Like when we studied late at the library and she'd help me prep for my finals. Or when I sprained my ankle during basketball and she changed my bandages without a word. Maybe those were just gestures of gratitude, but I cherished them like they meant something more. Because what no one knew was, I had liked her for far longer than she ever knew. When I was 14, my dad sponsored a national physics competition. I was the one who handed Lily Harper her medal. She was barely 10 then, tiny and quiet. But she stood tall on that podium, calm and composed in front of a huge audience. That was the moment I fell for her. But she never noticed me, at least not until 8 years later when we met again at the academic affairs office. That was why I offered to fund her in exchange for dating me. I didn't want to hurt her pride, but I was desperate. Her posture, her pride, her resolve made me hesitate. But when she agreed, I felt nothing but joy. I didn't stop to wonder how she felt. Maybe the commenters were right. Maybe I had forced her into this relationship. Lying in bed, I felt my heart twist. A relationship built on imbalance isn't meant to last. One day, when she no longer needs helper, when I run out of energy, it'll fall apart. Because it was never built on equal footing. The next morning, I bought her favorite breakfast, shrimp dumplings and soy milk. I arrived early at her lab, trying to make up for the tension between us. But as soon as I walked in, I saw Ethan Brooks sitting there, sipping porridge. He raised his spoon smugly when he noticed me. "Sorry, senior," he said with a smirk. "I brought Lily breakfast today." Lily had just finished eating. I frowned and ignored him, then turned to her. "Lily, I brought you your favorite shrimp dumplings and soy milk. Do you want to try it?" I asked, holding out the shrimp dumplings. Lily Harper glanced at me coldly and shook her head. "No. I'm full." I still didn't give up and tried again. "How about we go out to eat? The cafeteria food isn't that great anyway." This time, she finally looked up and stared at me deeply. "James Carter, could you please stop bothering me? Do you realize the professor has started thinking I'm a distraction because you keep showing up at the lab? I'm here to do experiments, not to be in a relationship." Her tone was sharp and clear. "If there's nothing else, just go." After that, she lowered her head and resumed writing her report, completely ignoring me. I stood there in silence, muttered an apology, and left. Outside, I shoved the dumplings into my mouth with trembling hands. They choked me, tasting of nothing but regret. On the way back to class, my phone rang. It was my dad. "Have you made up your mind?" he asked. "Carter Group has already arranged everything. This internship at the Country A branch isn't just work, it's your future. I know your studies are important, but you're still in college. Time is on your side. Go there, gain experience, and if you and Lily still care about each other when you return, I won't oppose it." He kept trying to persuade me, but my mind was a mess. This opportunity abroad could determine my position in the company, even my entire career path. But I couldn't let go of Lily Harper. I had liked her for 10 years. How could I leave now? Dad, give me 3 days. I'll think it over, I finally said. He paused, sighed, and agreed. All right, but think carefully, he said before hanging up. That night, I messaged Lily, can we have dinner together after your experiment? To my surprise, she replied almost instantly. Okay. But what surprised me more was that she didn't show up alone. Ethan Brooks came with her. Senior, he said with a grin, scratching his head, you don't mind if I have dinner with Lily, right? He acted like I didn't exist, as if I wasn't her boyfriend. My face darkened. Actually, I do mind. This dinner is just between Lily and me. I didn't invite a third wheel. Both of them looked stunned. They probably didn't expect me to be so blunt. But I still have some academic questions to ask Lily. Ethan started, but I cut him off. Then ask someone else. Ask the professor. But not now. This is a dinner between me and my girlfriend. Please leave. He was speechless. Embarrassed, he turned and walked away. Lily sat down, clearly holding something back. You can say it now, I told her. What's really going on? She pulled out her phone and placed it on the table. I took a deep breath, opened the campus forum on my own phone, and slid it in front of her. You've seen all these posts. I want to hear your explanation. She calmly scrolled through the posts, one by one, expressionless. Watching her, my heart sank from hope to disappointment, and finally to something darker. Are these posts wrong? I asked, trying to stay calm. What exactly do you want me to explain? She asked softly, almost with a smirk. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. If you think there's nothing to explain, then fine. My voice shook. Lily put her phone away and looked me straight in the eyes. You want me to explain why I'm close with Ethan? Or why we're in the lab together? Her tone turned cold. James Carter, don't be so naive. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. It was like something was stuck in my throat. You really brought me here just for this? She asked. I stayed quiet. She stood up and grabbed her tray. I don't care about those rumors, and I don't want you to care either. I'm tired of you constantly questioning me. It's exhausting. There was irritation in her voice, now undeniable. But I couldn't help it. I muttered bitterly, I care so much, it's driving me crazy. She didn't answer. She turned around and walked out of the cafeteria without looking back. I chased after her, and just outside, I saw Ethan Brooks again. He was right there beside her, walking and laughing like nothing had happened. Watching them side by side, I suddenly felt everything collapse. It had always been me chasing her. She never gave me the response I needed. It wasn't fair. Fueled by emotion, I stormed up, shoved Ethan aside, and wrapped my arms around Lily's waist. She's my girlfriend. Stay away from her. Lily tensed but didn't push me away. James Carter, what's wrong with you? Ethan yelled, climbing up from the ground. She's your girlfriend, not your wife. I didn't do anything. Why are you overreacting? Or are you just mad because you used money to get her in the first place? My eyes darkened, and I instinctively looked at Lily. A trace of coldness flashed through my gaze. What's it to you? I said. Back off, or I won't be so polite next time. Ethan chuckled mockingly. Did I hit a nerve? Feeling guilty? Face it, you're just a sugar daddy who's losing control. My fists clenched. I advise you to wake up before you lose your money and your pride, he added. I froze. What do you mean? I asked. Ethan smirked. You haven't heard. Lily's experiment succeeded. She's getting the bonus soon. She won't need your money anymore. You won't be able to hold that over her head. My whole body went cold. I turned to Lily. "Is that true?" I asked. She didn't respond, but the look on her face told me everything. I slowly let go of her hand and stepped back. "So that's it, huh? You're cold to me because you'll be financially independent soon. You won't need me anymore." "That's why," my voice cracked. I thought about how she kissed me just yesterday. About all the quiet, sweet moments we'd shared. It all felt like a joke now. That night, I returned to the dorm and pulled out the medal again. I stared at it for a long time. I had made up my mind. I was going to break up with Lily Harper. My roommate was right. If she didn't love me, then what was the point of holding on? Those 2 years of my youth, I would just treat them as a painful lesson. I opened our chat history and scrolled through. Most of it was me talking to myself. I used to share all the little things happening around me, funny stories, what I ate, how my day went, but all I ever got from Lily Harper was a dry or a flat oh. I used to think that was just how she was, quiet by nature. But now, I realize she simply didn't care. With a long sigh, I bought a one-way ticket to Country A. I typed out a message to her, using my family's financial situation as an excuse. "Let's break up. My family's gone bankrupt. I'm not worthy of being with you anymore." As soon as I hit send, I deleted all her contact information without hesitation. Just like my roommate said, those 2 years were wasted. From this point on, Lily Harper and I would have nothing to do with each other. When my roommate found out I was leaving, he looked reluctant but still gave me a light-hearted grin. "James Carter, don't forget us when you're rich. Bring back souvenirs when you return from Country A. You'll be a big boss by then. We're still counting on you to treat us to dinner." I laughed and nodded. All right. On the day of my departure, all my roommates came to the airport to see me off. Standing outside the terminal, holding my boarding pass, I turned back to look at the city one last time. This place carried my youth, my love, my memories. But now, all of it was over. I looked at my roommate and handed him the gold medal. "Can you give this back to Lily Harper for me?" He took the medal with a solemn nod. "Don't worry. I'll make sure she gets it." I gave a faint smile, turned around, and walked into the security checkpoint. As the plane took off and the city slowly shrank into the clouds, I stared out the window in silence and closed my eyes. That chapter of my life had come to an end. 5 years later, I was processing documents at the Carter Group's head office in Country A. Those 5 years hadn't been easy. When I first arrived, I was just another inexperienced graduate, thrown into a harsh workplace environment. I faced countless obstacles, but over time, I adapted. Now, I handled everything with ease. I used to think about Hermie, old love back in China. For a long time, she remained a thorn lodged in my chest, something I couldn't pull out or forget. But gradually, the pain dulled. In giving her up, I somehow found myself again. Now, I just wanted to grow my career here in peace. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was my dad. "What are you up to, you little brat? Haven't heard from you in ages and you can't even bother to call your old man," he barked. I chuckled. "I didn't want to disturb your romantic little world with Mom." "Cut the nonsense," he said, though I could hear the amusement in his voice. "Listen, we're about to collaborate with a top enterprise in Country A. We need someone to represent Carter Group for the negotiations." "That's great," I replied absently. "Great? That's not the point. I'm assigning you to be the representative. Pack your stuff. You're going back to China." I froze. "Wait, what? Dad, are you serious? I just got used to life here. You've been there 5 years. That's enough. Time to come home." Before I could protest, he hung up. I stared at the phone in disbelief. A few seconds later, it buzzed again. It was a text message: "The new director will arrive at the airport at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Go pick her up. She's talented, get to know her." I sighed. He didn't even bother telling me her name. How was I supposed to recognize her? That night, I drank too much. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. I groaned, rubbing my temples, and saw dozens from my dad. Where are you? Did you go pick her up? If anything goes wrong, I'll deal with you myself. I quickly replied, on my way, and rushed to the airport. But I wasn't ready for who I saw. There, standing in the crowd, dressed in a sleek professional suit, was Lily Harper. Her presence was calm and radiant. Time had only made her more graceful. She looked confident, composed, absolutely stunning. I stood frozen. She was equally surprised. We locked eyes, both silent for a moment. Sadness welled up inside me. Long time no see, she said softly, almost awkwardly. Yeah, long time no see, I replied with a forced smile. At that moment, my phone rang again. It was my dad. Did you find the new director? He demanded. She said she's already at the gate waiting. How can you still not see her? I looked around, confused. I didn't see anyone who looked like a company representative. Then I paused. I turned to Lily. Wait, don't tell me you're the director. She smiled gently and nodded. James Carter, tell your father I'll head to the company later. I have some things to do first. I looked at her, that familiar curve in her smile igniting something I thought I'd buried. My heart pounded. I had spent years convincing myself I was over her. But in that moment, I knew I wasn't. On the way back to the office, Lily sat beside me in the passenger seat. She kept glancing at me, but I pretended not to notice. My mind was a storm of emotions: nostalgia, regret, something warmer too. Why did you lie to me back then? She asked quietly. Have you been okay all these years? I've been fine, I answered quickly, too quickly, afraid she might dig deeper into the ugliest parts of who I was at the time. She didn't press further, but I noticed her eyes growing red. We arrived at the company. I pulled over, got out, and tossed my car keys to the security guard. Feeling her gaze burning into my back, I turned slightly and said something I instantly regretted: if you hadn't shown up, maybe things would have been better. The moment the words left my mouth, Lily Harper's eyes widened in disbelief. Tears welled up and fell silently down her cheeks. She wiped them away, holding the medal tightly in her hand. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "You gave this back to me. I can't accept it. I've been looking for you. I only found out last year that you transferred to the James branch." I took her to my office and stood in front of the large French window, overlooking the bustling street below. We were on the 13th floor. From up here, people looked like ants rushing about, each chasing their own life. Back then, Lily continued, I thought you really went bankrupt. I waited outside James' group all night, but the security guard kicked me out. He said the company wouldn't go bankrupt, not in the next 30 years. He even accused me of jinxing the company and threatened to call the police. As I listened to her speak, I was struck by something unfamiliar. Lily Harper, the same girl who once spoke in clipped syllables, now pouring out her heart without pause. There was sadness in her voice, hidden behind her composure. James Carter, she asked, why did you break up with me so suddenly? I didn't answer. Instead, I pointed toward the street below. Lily, everyone's busy. No one has time to wait. Everyone's trying to survive. Her eyes turned red, and she stared at me for a long time. Finally, she said softly, I never agreed to break up. I shook my head. It takes two to start a relationship. But it only takes one to end it. You know as well as I do it was always me taking the initiative. If I stopped loving you, then it was already over. She didn't argue. She just sat on the sofa in my office, unmoving. I asked her several times if she wanted to go out for a walk. She refused every time. So I turned back to my work, forcing myself to concentrate on the documents in front of me. But I could feel her eyes on me, tender, hesitant, and full of something I didn't dare name. Her voice, her expressions, her laughter from the past, all of it kept flashing in my mind, refusing to fade. By the time evening came and our meeting with the business partners approached, I was desperate to escape the tension. I put on my coat and stood. Let's go. At the dinner meeting, Lily Harper transformed. The sadness was gone, replaced by calm confidence. She handled the conversation with poise and professionalism. The partners nodded in appreciation. Within an hour, the deal was done. Thanks to her efforts, they even conceded 2 extra percentage points on the contract, more than we had hoped for. As we walked out of the restaurant, I arranged for Xiao Lu to escort the clients home, while I started to call for a cab. Suddenly, something warm was pressed into my hand. A cup of milk tea. Her voice followed behind it. It's cold. Don't catch a cold. I bought your favorite. I turned. Lily's eyes were still clear, but there was something in them that reminded me of the love I used to know. I sighed. We couldn't go on like this. Let's talk, I said quietly. We sat across from each other in a quiet restaurant. The way she looked at me made time collapse. For a moment, it felt like we were back 5 years ago. She was calm, serene like the sea under the sun, but the emotions in her gaze were deep and turbulent. I finally broke the silence. Lily Harper, we've already broken up. You don't need to keep following me. Her eyes turned red again, but she didn't waver. Then let me chase you this time. I rubbed my forehead. I loved you so much back then, and you didn't even seem to care. But now, after I've been gone for 5 years, you suddenly fall in love with me? You're wrong, Lily said, smiling bitterly. I've liked you for a long time, since way before you ever noticed me. I remembered. Her home was deep in the mountains, hidden away. When she was just 10, she went to school during the day, cut grass for pigs at night, cooked for her family, and helped her little sister with homework. Her father was a gambler, her mother aging too quickly, and she had the heavy air of someone twice her age. Back then, my father's company was on the rise, and he needed a charity project to polish his reputation. That's how I first stepped into her world. Dressed in brand-name clothes, I walked through the muddy yard of her broken house, where the roof leaked every time it rained. She was feeding pigs in ill-fitting clothes, her head down. When she looked up and saw me, she froze. Then she awkwardly wiped her hands on her pants, unsure of what to do. I remember feeling a pang of something, sympathy, maybe guilt. I handed her a lollipop. Want some candy? We were only 2 steps apart, but to her, it probably felt like a mile. She looked up at me with a mix of awe and fear, eyes darting between my pristine white sneakers and branded watch, things she had only seen on the village's old TV. That day, young Lily Harper realized that princes didn't just exist on screen. Sometimes, they showed up in your backyard. At 15, my father helped renovate her house. No more leaks. When he saw the calluses on her hands, he gave money to the village chief and arranged for her to be supported until she turned 18. From that day on, she no longer had to wake before dawn or stay up late patching the roof. She had real notebooks, a new backpack, a bicycle, and even chicken drumsticks on the dinner table. Life suddenly turned brighter. Then, when she was 14, she competed in an academic competition funded by our company. She won first place. At the award ceremony, she held the medal and prize money with trembling hands and thanked us on stage. Her voice echoed, and the applause was deafening. That day, we met again. It was that one look that made me fall completely. I had never seen a girl with such strength in her eyes. After she turned 18, the funding stopped. She relied on scholarships and competition prizes to get into Harrington University. She once told me she wasn't short on money. The prize money she'd accumulated over the years was enough for her tuition. But when she found out someone had stolen her subsidy spot, she couldn't help but ask about it. She didn't have much hope, but she didn't expect that I would offer financial support in the condition that she became my girlfriend. She feared I was just playing around, while she was deadly serious. I was so thrilled my heart almost jumped out of my chest. But Lily Harper had smiled bitterly and said, you don't even remember me. Maybe you just said that on a whim. I can't afford to gamble with that. She said she hadn't reached my level yet through her own efforts. When I was humble about our relationship, she was pushing herself to climb higher. But she was scared of what people whispered. That she was with me for money. That one day, when I got tired of her, I would leave. There would be no future for us. So she kept her distance. She thought, if she stayed far enough away, maybe I wouldn't lose interest so quickly. You asked me once if I cared, she said. I do. I really do. But I didn't dare admit it. I forgot that you could be sad too. Her voice cracked, her eyes wet with tears. It was the first time I'd ever seen her cry. The redness in her eyes held a kind of fragility that shattered me from the inside. My chest ached like something was clenching it tight. So what? I said, forcing a smile. What's in the past should stay in the past. But then she blurted it out. Let's get back together. The words stuck in my throat. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Afraid I'd break, I stood up quickly and waved for the waiter. I'm heading out first. A driver will take you. Lily looked at me blankly. I didn't look back. After leaving the bar, I wandered the streets, trying to walk off the heaviness in my chest. I didn't expect to be targeted by a group of drunk men from Country A. They cornered me with daggers, ready to rob me. I was no match for all of them. Just when I thought one of them would stab me, Lily Harper appeared out of nowhere and threw herself in front of me. With a dull thud, the knife pierced her shoulder. Blood poured down. Lily! I shouted, catching her as she collapsed. My panic gave me strength. I kicked the thugs aside and carried her straight to the hospital. She'd lost a lot of blood. Her face was pale on the hospital bed. One wrong angle, and the blade could have pierced her heart. Are you okay? I asked, eyes full of worry. I'm fine, she said weakly. Are you insane? I scolded her. Why would you block a knife for me? If I hadn't, she said quietly, you could have died. Her answer left me speechless. James Carter, can we go back to how we were? She asked, her voice cautious. Lily, if you're doing this just to repay a favor, that's not fair to you, I said seriously. No, she shook her head. I'm not doing this out of gratitude. I really like you. Her eyes met mine. Maybe we weren't equal before. But I want to start again, not because of debt, but because of love. I was silent. Give me a chance, she said softly, let me pursue you this time. Her fingers brushed against mine, warm and gentle like catkins in spring. My heart stirred. Okay, I nodded, but I won't accept you just because of what happened tonight. I want to see how sincere you are. Lily smiled. A bright, genuine smile. All right, she replied. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. As I was about to leave the room, she suddenly opened her eyes. What's wrong? I asked, startled. James Carter, thank you, she said. Thank me? For what? Nothing, she said, her cheeks flushing red. I just wanted to say thank you. I smiled. You're welcome. Outside the window, the shade of parasol trees danced in the breeze. Cicadas chirped just like they did in my memories. And just like that, my phoenix finally returned, willing to rest on my shoulder. Thinking back to Ethan Brooks's former courtesy toward Lily Harper, I couldn't help but remember how he lost to nothing more than her cold indifference. Even I once wondered, doesn't Lily Harper already have a boyfriend? But back then, I never imagined she would say yes to my reckless request. Considering the internship at the Country A branch, maybe Dad had already known I still liked her. Lily Harper had watched Ethan walk away without saying a word. And May had already seen those cruel comments online about her and me. That was why I turned my eyes to the one name the village chief had recommended. That day, I looked down at my neat clothes and suddenly understood something. The gap between us was never what she wore or where she came from. It was whether or not we were willing to cross that gap together.